Video games are a place where we go to escape, a space where our biggest dreams can become a reality. Well, virtually, at least. In a video game, you get to be the hero. No, a group of heroes. No, wait! The underdog who miraculously saves the day. The smart one who can solve all the puzzles. The one person in all the land who's skilled and talented enough to take on the impossible task of designing and decorating the entire town. Yeah, so clearly, as you can see, video games give us a lot of power. We hold it in our hands and are gifted the prize of embodying the most positive force the game has to offer. Wait, or do we? What if I told you that, quite often, we take control of the bad guy in video games? That we're playing as the true villain, and worst of all, we didn't even notice. That would be horrifying if true, right? Maybe you're in doubt right now, or maybe you're thinking of all the games you've ever played. Gosh, I really hope so. I mean, why else do you think I told you this? You're supposed to think about it. But you don't have to believe me just yet either. After all, it's not really your fault you didn't notice. Games incentivize you to play them the way they're intended to be played. And it wasn't until I heard the wise words of one particular game developer that I realized just how much we overlook what's happening under the hood. This prolific director's name is Yoko Taro. He's responsible for some of the most profound stories in gaming. Though, I'd wager you've probably never heard of him. His most successful story is the one found in Nier Automata, which is a game that focuses on philosophical struggles we deal with every day. All of the characters are even named after famous philosophers and concepts. Even the main character is an android named 2B. You know, like, 2B or not 2B. I really hope I don't have to explain that one for you, although if you live in Florida, I guess I do. Now, Yoko Taro is an extremely smart man. When he crafts his stories, he masterfully weaves fantastic dialogue together with complex philosophies. All the while, his games maintain a flashy exterior to reel people in. Yeah, like that. Once those, gripping visuals reel us in, Yoko Taro's stories then proceed to rip your heart out, stomp on it, and tell you your feelings don't matter because this is what happens in the real world. The stories really are that deep and gut-wrenching. But what drove this madman to perform this extremely niche hook, line, and sinker maneuver? Can't he just chill and make a generic story like all the other writers? You know, instead of constantly flaunting humanity's greatest flaws in front of our faces? Well, no. No, he can't. Because once he put himself in the shoes of the game protagonist, he literally couldn't justify the brainless slaughter the characters perform. That's right, this genius man revealed that the drive for his narratives is the simple fact that our character would have to be a complete psychopath to commit half the actions they do. Like, just look at Link. Mans is always breaking into people's houses and shattering their pots. Taro's stories always feature characters that are either already crazy or aren't crazy yet, but get broken down and driven insane. This is usually done by a broken system of sorts that tricks the characters into remaining ignorant. Meanwhile, they continue to inflict harm upon specific groups. This is very similar to systems we have in real life, and this mentality presented in the games actually carries over to the player. Silently, but deadly. Silently, but deadly. Yeah. This showcases how easy it is for us to overlook our actions because society has presented us with certain norms. Remember, kids, anything can be considered normal if you're conditioned to live with it long enough. We'll call this concept of conditioned sociopathy the Yoko Taro thesis. How does this theory stack up against other game stories? We'll just look at some examples. Who put this on the screen? This one's such a gimme. I mean, Call of Duty, the whole point is to shoot people in the head. What else are we going to say about this? Everyone already knows that's psychotic. What's something a bit more, I don't know, subtle? Okay, yes. So here's a game where you fight literal monsters. Or, well, you jump on their heads, apparently. Mario. So Mario's story is that he's a plumber, right? I guess he's supposed to be helping clean Peach's gunked up pipes or something. Okay, yeah, saying that out loud, I think, takes on a new meaning. Clearly, they have a really, weird working relationship going on. But one thing we can say about Mario is that Mans is apparently a killing machine. He's stomping on Goombas, kicking turtles to their death, and punching Shy Guys in the face everywhere he goes. And like, yeah, that's how you beat the game, but has anyone stopped and thought about why the heck we're killing most of the Mushroom Kingdom's residents? I mean, we're pretty much committing mass genocide, and no one's asking why. Why almost the entire kingdom has turned on the princess, a monarch who sits pretty in her castle where only the Toad lineage is allowed to lounge around her? Seems kind of supremacist, right? Yeah? If you think about it like this, we're actually the evil force in the story. And honestly, that's the only conclusion I can come to when I put myself in Mario's shoes. Those ugly, dusty old shoes. But there are even more subtle examples. Let's look at Pokemon. We're literally capturing innocent creatures against their will and forcing them to hurt each other. The games seem to roll right over this concept by saying it's how they build bonds. But like, is it really? Is that really how they're bonding? Okay. In Pokemon's defense, they have tweaked the lore a bit to say that Pokemon only let you capture them if they do want to live their lives with you. And Legends Arceus explains that this symbiotic relationship originated from a survivalist perspective. But for years, this issue remained unaddressed by the developers, and no one batted an eye. We're kinda crazy for that. Other games are pretty on the nose with how evil our characters are, yet the game acts as if we're not. Take Hogwarts Legacy, for example. We're tasked with suppressing a coup from an oppressed minority group that just wants to not be forced into slave labor. We're literally union busting. It's insane. In the process, we not only end up on the wrong side of history, but we actively kill hundreds of goblin activists, as well as even other humans, which, okay, the humans we kill are poachers, so they're definitely not the good guys, but still, we're killing hundreds of them. What kind of sociopath behavior is this? Speaking of which, there are cases where we really are fighting for the greater good in the game. Being the exact opposite of Hogwarts Legacy, a great example is Final Fantasy XVI. In this one, we're fighting to liberate the game's equivalent of slaves from their tortured labor. We're fighting against systematic prejudice, oligarchy, ecological destruction, and even enemies who would have been slaves, but they're more powerful, so they oppose you thanks to survivorship bias. But even in this game, where we're clearly on the side of good, the developers never considered the Yoko Taro thesis. In our quest to succeed in our endeavors, we still end up mowing down thousands, and I mean hundreds of thousands of human beings. Sure, it's kill or be killed, but your character is so powerful by comparison to most of these enemies that instead of killing them, I can't help but think there was a better way for him to handle things. Perhaps sway these enemies to your side after showcasing your overwhelming power, or even just sparing them and showing them how different they could be treated, instead of as the expendable numbers that their kings treat them like. I applaud Final Fantasy XVI for tackling such hard-hitting issues, but the overall message on how to deal with them falls flat for me. Meanwhile, other games embrace or acknowledge Yoko Taro's thesis and give reasons for why our characters are the killing machines they are, like Devil May Cry and Bayonetta. Dante and Bayo are both characters that revel in sadism, and all the enemies you slay are out of their personal revenge. For Dante, every demon that attacks him was directly responsible for killing his mother and imprisoning his father. For Bayonetta, every angel she massacres is responsible for killing her entire clan. These games don't shy away from admitting their protagonists are unapologetically crazy in some way. But the best way I've seen Yoko Taro's thesis handled is within games that, well, literally incorporate the thesis into the game. Obviously, Yoko Taro's own works deal with this thesis. So let's take Nier Automata for example. In Nier Automata, at the beginning of the game, the enemies don't really fight you back, but a lot of times we just kill them anyway, and you don't notice that they're not fighting you back because, you know, it's a video game. You think, I should just be killing these enemies. But later on in the game, when certain things get revealed to your character, they make you feel really bad if you were killing them up until this point. And yes, there have been enemies that attacked you, but odds are you were also killing some that weren't. And I really haven't seen a game do that before. This was really a first time. But Undertale is a cult classic title that includes a really unique feature called the morality gauge. From the very start, your actions directly impact the ways the game will play and which way the narrative will go. You can be entirely passive, never harming any of the enemies within the game by dodging their attacks while attempting to talk things out. This will make the story and even the enemies you face change entirely compared to other variations of morality you choose. Conversely, you can be entirely genocidal, killing every enemy in sight, and with this, the story will be completely different and bosses will be much harder thanks to being more vengeful. There are even variations in between depending on what characters you may choose to kill and which ones you choose to let live. Your decisions are always affecting the morality gauge, and therefore, the game itself. It's a truly unique experience that few other titles have attempted to replicate. But there's always one decision that you make that I'll always support, and that's sticking around my channel for more videos. If you'd like to join in on supporting me so I can make more thought-provoking content like this, the best way is to click the Patreon link in front of you. Otherwise, here are some recommendations for you to click on and watch. I've been johtojonny. Enjoy, everyone.